Democracy is dead. It is dead. It's a myth. The government, House of Commons, the House of Lords, the royal family, democracy is dead. They all must go. They all must go. I'm Colby Smith, and if you know me, you probably know I had ambitions, aspirations to be a politician, run for Parliament. But since I've embarked on that journey, I've realised that's not the answer. I don't trust politicians. I don't think there is any democracy left in Parliament, and that's not a system I want to be part of. People say, don't hate the player, hate the game. Well, I hate that phrase. If the game's broke, don't play the game. Fix the game. It needs fixing from the bottom up. I mean, you only have to look at a few facts and a few people in power to realise democracy is dead. You start at the very top of the power spectrum in the UK. You've got the Queen, the House of Windsor, an unelected ruler who is the head of our state, who is the head of 50 other states. She costs us, to the taxpayer, £40-50 million a year just to upkeep. She owns £7 billion worth of property in the UK alone. And that's someone who's born into that power and into those riches, into that position. It's a hereditary power. That's not something that represents a democracy. That's something, it's like a throwback of a bygone era, of a medieval era, where people are born into power. And that's not something I want to leave for my children and the next generation. Either you're born rich and powerful, or you're born poor, with no power, with no say. That's not a democracy. Democracy's dead. If you look just below the Queen, you've got David Cameron, the Prime Minister. He's unelected as well. The Tory party haven't had a majority government since 1992. That's 21 years ago. And yet he's the leader of our country, which I don't really think makes any sense. He's an unelected ruler. Not only that, he's the fifth cousin of the Queen. The fifth cousin of the Queen. He's a descendant from William IV, which I thought, I was always taught at school that politics and the royal family was supposed to be disengaged. But when you've got a man who's the fifth cousin of the Queen, 10th or 11th in line for the throne, by some people's word, that's not a democracy. That's not disengaged. That's being very much engaged. He's an unelected. How is this man the ruler of our country? I do not know. I don't think I've ever met a man like David Cameron who speaks like him, from his background, who's educated like him. I've never met a person like that in my entire life. It doesn't make any sense. And then the other part, there's another 780 unelected people who run this country, and they're in the House of Lords, the biggest joke of democracy in the world, I believe. 781 unelected rulers, appointed by the Queen, who is unelected, and appointed by the Prime Minister, who is also unelected. So you have unelected figures appointing other unelected figures to rule the country. It's just a big pack of people who look after themselves and look after each other and rub each other on the back, tell each other they've done a good job. Democracy's dead. You can vote for who you want, but in the long run, they're all representing the same views. And that is the views of lobbyists, corporations, power, money. It's all the same. The House of Lords, it needs to be scrapped. I mean, they're all unelected. That's another hereditary power seat that you're either born into or you're not, or you make it far enough in your life and get rich and powerful enough that they think you're suitable to be in the House of Lords. I mean, it's ridiculous. The Queen can create peers, hereditary peers, which means she can basically give a family power for the rest of, well, forever, until that lineage dies. It's just ridiculous. They all must go, basically. The whole power system in this country, there's no democracy left, and that's why I feel like I can't run. I don't want to be part of a system that's broke, and I'll just become one of them. And that's why I can't be a politician. I'm sorry.